Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It is Tuesday, June 15th, 2021. I'm Andrew Hansen alongside Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach. And he's hot, folks, on fire with the FanDuel hybrid in the NBA, Coach. Another solid win last night. Let's keep it rolling.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was solid, and it was tedious watching that second game and not having the big dogs in there just hanging on. When you're just watching that scoreboard and it's going to get tight, but we stuck in there. It was a great night for our members, and really Morris Senior came through for me in a big way. I needed that little bust out for him to stay in there. So it was good stuff. And variance wasn't completely on our side, like we were fortunate the night before. So that made me feel good. And I'll tell you, we needed every single point from Embiid that we got. And man, I thought at any moment he was going to be pulled from that game because he looked really hurt and bad, didn't he?
He did, and he had to struggle to get to that finish line. How about the missed layup
Oh,
late? I mean,
yes.
wow, he's going to be thinking about that for the next 48 hours
Oh,
and then some.
completely dead legs, and his
Yep.
right knee is just. I mean, you got to remember, most people don't play with a torn meniscus. I mean, Porzingis last year in the playoffs in that Clippers series, he has like the exact same ligament, slight tear in that, not ligament, it's just the meniscus, and he didn't play until a month into the season this year. So the fact that he's out there trying is pretty impressive, but I don't even know if they roll him out there the next game. I don't think he can do it.
That'll be big news. We'll be watching it tomorrow. The short turnaround for them. They had the
Yeah,
bigger break in between games 3 and 4, but they play tomorrow. So we'll break that one down tomorrow. Today we have
scary.
some news to deal with Mr. Harden. All of a
Yeah,
sudden, he's
yeah.
doubtful.
Mm.
We're recording this here in the morning, Coach. We know he's gonna go at shoot around and see how he feels. What's your instinct on if he actually suits it up?
Well, we posted some things in our Discord, and we both of us have been searching Twitter and the beat writers and everything, and it sounds like, if I had to guess, I think he's going to try to play. It's 2-2, and I know it's risky, but the medical staff has to give the thumbs up. But it sounds to me that I am right now building my lineup, and it's early, and I'm sure it'll change with the anticipation that he's going to give it a shot and play limited minutes. What about you?
My instinct right now is that he'll play since it's 2-2. I saw the note that he had been doing some pregame work on the court before game 4.
Yeah.
And with Kyrie out, this series has changed dramatically. Everybody thought, oh, Milwaukee's done, down
Yeah.
2-0. But with these injuries to two of the big three, they're in a tough spot now. So they're at home. And I
Yeah.
think he needs to give it a go, give it his best shot, and see if they can pull out game 5. And so I think he's going to give it a go. That's my guess right now. But
I
the interesting
agree.
thing is, it's not going to affect my lineup on FanDuel. It will affect my lineup on DraftKings. So let's break that down for
Yeah.
folks here, one team at a time, one slate at a time.
Sure.
You can kick us off with Milwaukee. They are the 4-point favorites here,
Yeah.
total 218.5. They're on the road, but they've got all the momentum and all the health. So talk to us about this Milwaukee side.
Well, I mean, they see the opportunity here. I mean, they're very fortunate, to not have to go against Harden and now Irving. Um, Even if Harden plays, we know he's not going to be the James Harden that we know. So great opportunity for Milwaukee. It's going to sound silly. They have the momentum. It's 2-2, but the pressure is still on them because now Brooklyn's not expected to win with all these injuries unless, Harden returns and plays a lot of minutes, but they still need this win because just think if they do lose this game and or drop this series playing with basically Kevin Durant and a bunch of either almost retired or G League kind of guys, because that's what they are. I mean, you look at these guys, there's not much around them. And that would really be a devastating blow for Milwaukee. So I think the pressure's still on, but I do think, they're a little bit too much for Brooklyn to handle that shorthanded. I mean, you know, the question is here, uh, a lot of people will use KD as the captain. A lot of people will use Giannis as the captain. Those are really the two big choices. It's hard not to go Giannis here in a one game showdown. I don't know if there's a possible build really that you don't you can't have. If you don't have, I should say, Giannis or KD, how are you going to win is the question,
Right.
where you put them in that grouping, and whether it's the graduated to 1.5, 1.2, or the captain spot, those will be the decisions. But let's not kid ourselves. I don't think those two are fadeable in a showdown slate. So I'm going to start with Giannis in there, and then it all comes down to your build from there. The next guys will be crucial, and certainly I think Chris Middleton, his play the last two games, his bounce back has been very admirable, very solid. But here's the problem. He had two games in Brooklyn where he was horrible. So, excuse me, they go back to Brooklyn. Sometimes shooters like that, it's a short memory of I was here, last week and I couldn't make anything. It gets in their head a little bit, and who knows? So, I don't think he's 100% lock and load, but man, he sure has been, the second best player on that team. The guy that's the wild card, Andrew, that I'm interested in your view of is Drew Holiday. Because if you don't go Middleton and you want to hope Holiday has his breakout game, he hasn't had a great series, but he was 6 for 16 from the field last game. Middleton was 7 for 15. So, everybody thinks Middleton's just killing it and Holiday's playing poorly. But if you statistically look at what they did, their stats were almost identical. 3 for 8 and 2 for 7 from 3, 4 rebounds, 3 rebounds, 8 assists, 9 assists. I mean, across the board, very similar, and Holiday's cheaper than Middleton. He seems to be the wild card here that I have some interest in. And the biggest decision I'm going to have to make on this showdown slate, for me anyway, is Holiday or Middleton. Because if you're playing Giannis and Harden, you can't play both Holiday and Middleton. It's not going to work. So that's the big decision. After that, I know PJ Tucker had a nice game. Boy, that's risky. Maybe GPP at best. And Brooke Lopez, very disappointing the last time, only 2 for 6 from the field.
All threes.
Yeah, all threes. No two. The 7-footer, he couldn't get a tip in or an offensive rebound bucket or anything, which is very, not
That's
good.
2021 for you.
Yeah, unbelievable. And that's a guy that, a lot of listeners may not remember. When he first came out of Stanford, he didn't get out of the paint at all. He was on the block, back to the block, little jump hook. It was a better looking jump hook than his brother does, but it was nonetheless, his range was like 8-10 feet, literally, for years. And then all of a sudden now, the big guy can't put his foot in the paint. So I'm a little down on him. I'm probably not going to go there. The people that jump on the Pat Connaughton, one game, shenanigans there, I think it's just trap city. So Connaughton's my favorite fade trap play of the day, which usually can give you a big edge a lot of times, and don't really trust anybody else. So I like the secondary value guys for Brooklyn a hell of a lot more than the Milwaukee guys because they're a little shorthanded. So I guarantee you, Andrew, I'll walk away with Giannis and either Middleton or Holiday and fill it out with Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the analysis at the top. I agree. Drew Holiday, I do like that he got those extra shots in 37 minutes, and he just hasn't broken out. But
no,
in a matchup like this, I don't think he's going to go 6-7 games without a much higher, much better performance. So this could be the night. I think he's really worth considering.
Yeah, me too.
But it's funny if you look at those stats. You're talking about the 3-point attempts for Middleton and Drew Holiday. Tucker, he was 3 for 6 on threes, and
Yeah,
he got aggressive. And I think that mix-up he had with Durant at the end of Game 3 really woke him up, and he came
yeah,
out and actually was aggressive and shooting, and so he showed what he's capable of. The interesting thing, though, is on a one-game slate here, I think he gets a little bit lost in the shuffle for me because he's a little bit in the mid-tier with his pricing, and if you're going to pay up for Giannis and KD, he just kind of misses out for me. So if it was a two-game slate, I'd be more likely to look at him, but not. I don't think I'll get to him on this one-game slate. Similar
I'm
with
you.
Brook Lopez, he's just a little like 11-5 on FanDuel. He just loses out with Drew Holiday at 12-5. If you're going to make a build with somebody in that range, I think it's Holiday.
Yeah,
And then with the bench, the one difference I'll have is Connaughton. I think he's playable. 6 stocks, I think, is unlikely here, but he's sort of like Drew Holiday, where the first few games he just was having these duds, not putting up a lot of shots, not very aggressive, but he started well. He got the extra minutes. Forbes went down to 13 minutes, and Connaughton, I mean, he's a solid player who can give you stocks and threes, and he was just a disappearing act for the first 3 games, but he really showed up in Game 4, and I wouldn't expect he would have the same fantasy point total, but he is a good price on both sites, so I think he helps make the lineups work.
yeah. I think he's going to be chalky though.
Yep. Well, if you go with KD and Giannis and Middleton on FanDuel, then you only have so
You're
many
scraping.
options. You're scraping.
Yeah.
So you could pivot to a guy like Forbes if you wanted on FanDuel.
Yeah, or
I don't-
Portis, but Portis is what a bust he's been too.
0 for 3, and surprising because he looked fine to me while he's out there. He's involved defensively. Those little baby shots that just go in and out. If he makes those tonight, he could pay off value. But yeah, he's just not. He hasn't had his ceiling games either.
At all. Yeah.
All right, Coach, before we transition to Brooklyn, I want to invite folks in to join us. We've had a really good playoff run here to start when we plan on continuing it. So join us for the rest of the playoffs with our 111 package. You see that on YouTube if you're watching there right on the bottom. Just go to our website, dfscoachtalk.com, pay the 111. You get 2 months. So it'll extend past the NBA Finals. And for all this time, you'll get our baseball lineups every night, 7 days a week. We often do 2 slates, and then golf lineups twice a week. And before you know it, we'll be a football coach. So
That's crazy.
dfscoachtalk.com if you'd like to join us. We'd love to have you. We'll send you an email and get you into our Discord. And we give out lineups about 20 minutes before tip.
Absolutely. And, we've been just as hot in baseball as we have basketball. So great time to join. And again, it's called the NBA playoff package for 111. But as Andrew said, it's 2 full months of everything that we offer. It's not just basketball. So we'd love to have you join us for that. It's, it gives you a good run at it at a great price. And, like I say, catch fire with that, and our golf too. I wanted to mention that real quickly in here. Check out our PGA podcast that posts tomorrow, and if you're going to enter some of those events on FanDuel and DraftKings specifically, there's some huge milli maker contests for the U.S. Open this week. So jump in there, reserve those, and then check us out tomorrow on the PGA pod.
Can't wait. Been doing my research already. That's going to be awesome at Torrey Pines.
It's going to be super. It's going to be terrific.
Yeah. All right, Coach. On the Brooklyn side, we've talked about it a little bit. Kyrie out. We know that. Durant doubtful. We know that.
No, not Durant.
Oh,
Harden.
sorry, Harden. Yep.
Don't scare
Durant.
the hell out of it. If we lose him too, then what?
Oh
It's
boy.
100% Landry Shamet or
Yeah,
something.
right. Alize Johnson time.
Yeah.
So, as I mentioned it towards the top of the show, Harden for me, for my primary lineup on FanDuel, I don't expect him to change anything for me. With only 5 guys, you don't have the MVP multiplier in terms of price captain. So I'm planning to fade Harden in my primary FanDuel lineup if he plays. Certainly, you could look at him in a GPP, but his price, he's only 500 less than Giannis. So tough to get to. On DraftKings, it will change things for me because I'm interested in Mike James if Harden sits. We saw James get 20 minutes after Kyrie went out. That's what he ended up playing. He's a good price. So I think you could look at James. You could even look at him as the captain on DraftKings if you want to go with one of those mid-tier options. As we talk about, it often works out depending on the slate, depending on the pricing. If Giannis, KD have similar games where they're, let's say, 55 fantasy points, and you don't have one of them going to 70, where you would really want them as your MVP or captain, then it can work out mathematically. But if Harden's going to play, then James is right back down, much lesser in consideration. Certainly not as the MVP. KD, like you said, Coach. I mean, 100% ownership. Ultra GPP to go without him. I mean, he played 42 minutes, Coach. Yeah. Remember how we were just a little frustrated with Coach Nash for putting in the subs there at the end, and it's like, oh man, you didn't get the extra run from KD. Well, he still played 42 minutes.
I know. Yeah,
so
we're complaining.
He took 25 shots. I could see him playing 44 or 45 minutes. Maybe they give him a minute or two between the quarters, to get that extra rest with the quarter break. But they need him to go, and so that's what I expect. I expect big minutes, big shots, 30 shots plus. So KD will be in there for me. Blake Griffin, speaking of injuries, I mean, they were talking about it on the broadcast. Was something going on with him? Why didn't he play late? Jeff Green.
He got very little run that second half.
Yeah. I mean, Jeff Green is back in the picture, and he's a guy that I actually like today. He got 27 minutes, and that's a nice stepping stone for him coming back from injury. This is his kind of game. So, again, even if he comes off the bench, he's in play for me. Then the other guys for Brooklyn in that starting lineup, Bruce Brown, Joe Harris, I don't plan to play them. Middle tier pricing. Bruce Brown still really expensive on FanDuel at $11,000.
Right.
Only got 21 minutes. I would think he would get a few more than that with Kyrie out. But again, with only 5 guys to play on FanDuel, I just don't think he's going to make it for me. Joe Harris, man, he just plays a ton of minutes. But if he's not hitting most of his threes, he doesn't pay off value. He did it in game 1. He went 5 for 9 on threes. It paid off value. Games 2, 3, and 4, 3 for 7, 1 for 7, 2 for 6. And
it's not going to cut it.
Not going to cut
price.
it. Not few rebounds. 9,500. He is cheaper on FanDuel than Bruce Brown, so I think he's a better option because of that and fitting into a build. So I think he's playable, and I would think he would do better than 8 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 assist, especially if Harden is out. I mean, he's got to do more. They have to have him. I mean, because it's not like Brooklyn. It's not like Milwaukee is just going to let Durant take his 35 shots going one-on-one, right? They're going to try to get it out of his hands.
If they don't run guys doubles at them and stuff, then they're out of their mind because, you got to force somebody else to beat you. You have to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Finishing off the bench here, in addition to Jeff Green and James, if he's off the bench. Other than that, I'm not too interested here. Shamet, surprisingly, only 11 minutes. He could step up if Harden is out. then maybe you look at him. Claxton, he just can't seem to break that 13, 14-minute barrier. So GPP only for me. And, Tyler Johnson could get a few more minutes if Harden is out. But, I think you get KD out there. And, looking at FanDuel, Jeff Green is the guy that I'm kind of looking at today, Coach.
I agree with you completely. It's pretty simple for me in this one. I mean, Durant has to be, in my opinion, he's going to be my captain 100% all sites. I don't care, that they double or blitz him. He's still at 7 foot, shoots over everybody and penetrates, gets rebounds. It's a lock. He may be on this slate, especially if Harden doesn't play, the biggest lock of the year. Regardless if he just does okay, you have to have him. And, it's so that's a no-brainer. Now, after that is where it gets tricky because, like you said, the dynamics have changed a little bit for Brooklyn in these last couple of games. Everybody went bananas for Blake Griffin the last game. And I faded him because I was concerned. They really, really trust Jeff Green. I mean, he was starting the majority of the time. He was finishing every game. So for whatever reason, Nash really trusts him as a veteran over Griffin as a veteran. So I didn't roster Jeff Green last time because I was a little concerned about a minutes cap on the first game back, but it was enough to get me off of Griffin. Now I'm totally sold. It's all the green you can eat, in my opinion. I'm playing him in every lineup. I think he's the best value play. I think he plays 30 minutes. He'll get rebounds. He'll get a few stocks. Can knock down threes, and I think he finishes the game. So I like him much better than Blake Griffin. And I also agree with you on the other value play. I think Mike James is a stone cold lock if Harden sits. Now, if Harden plays and is going to play 15 to 18 minutes, whatever, then I'm going to have to relook at that situation. But with the way I'm looking at the game right now, even if Harden does try and plays small amount of minutes, I think James is the next guy up. I mean, he's a veteran. I mean, even though he's not been in the league a long time, he was, and I've mentioned this before, he was widely known for 3-4 years as the best basketball player in the world that wasn't actually in the NBA. And he played overseas. He played all different places. So he's no rookie by any stretch. He's been around, and he's talented and fearless. I mean, he'll take whatever shot, do whatever it needs to be done. So very high on those two value guys in Green and James. I think they really help you build with those top guys that we mentioned. Joe Harris, on some builds for me, if I do multiple, will be part of that because I agree with you. I mean, we know he can shoot it. And, the bottom line is it's 2-2, and they have to win this game. And Durant needs some relief. I mean, he didn't get any relief from anybody this last game when Kyrie went down. So, the most likely player on the rest of this roster to step up, with all those guys out would be him. Harris is no rookie either. You got to remember he's got good experience, even though it was on the bench with LeBron in Cleveland. That's where, he started out. So he's seen it, felt it, and been there. And I think he's the guy that will be a good candidate to step up. It's just balancing that price again, making that determination. Middleton, Holiday, does that mean you can shift to a Harris in this game as your second guy to Durant? You have to find that salary balance, and it's different on all three sites, DraftKings, FanDuel, and Yahoo. I have different combinations right now that I'm working on that has all the players that I mentioned. And there are ways to, shuffle them in there. I'm with you on the other guys, just too big of a game, too important for me to risk a Brown, Shamet, Claxton, Johnson, any of those guys. I think just too risky, and I don't think you have to go there if we're using this correct chalk out of this game. So I think it's a doable group, though.
Well, it's kind of fun, Coach. We have more overlap here than almost ever on a one-game
I
slate.
think so. We may
Yeah.
have the same lineup on a few of them. Who
Could be.
knows?
Could be.
Yeah.
So do join us.
You and I and 100 million other people.
Right. Yeah. So we'll work on those here throughout the afternoon, and then give out our hybrid lineups on FanDuel that you can plug and play, a GPP option, a Yahoo full lineup, and then the DraftKings core build, depending on if you're in a cash game or GPP. So join us through dfscoachtalk.com. Any questions, you can find us on Twitter at dfscoachtalk. You can follow the coach at JOESARVADI. You can find me at Language Olympic. And if you're watching on YouTube, we'd love to have you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We will continue these 7-day-a-week podcasts in front of the paywall throughout the NBA playoffs. We did it all regular season, and we're not stopping now, Coach.
Absolutely. And just to reiterate that, we don't ask for anything on these podcasts except a simple thumbs up in YouTube, a subscribe button, and hitting the alert button so you know when our podcast posts, and our audio outlets for podcasting, Podbean, Stitcher, iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. Just take a second, 5 stars, and a quick comment. Again, all of those things really move us up. It allows us to bring these NBA podcasts to the table 7 days a week in front of the paywall. So please take a second to do that, and it's much appreciated.
Awesome. So thank you all for tuning in, and we're going to do it again tomorrow. On behalf of the coach and the rest of the DFS Coach Talk team, I'm Andrew Hansen. We'll see you tomorrow as we look to crush it in DFS.